The Jane Carroll Show on AM 1360 KUIK, Westside Talk Radio.
Hello, this is Kevin Hoare. We're back from the break. I'm in for Jane Carroll today, and we're having a series of guests on that are going to actually give you a lot of information about what's happening, as well as information about the election and who some of the candidates are. By the way, we're also going to talk about an issue here that's been at the heart of the debate that's been raging not only at the national level, but now at the state level as well. And the candidate that we're about to have on knows a great deal about this. But first, let's give him a proper introduction. On the phone with us is Dan Lucas. He's running for state representative, and it's kind of the East Beaverton area, but I'll let Dan describe the district because every candidate knows their district very well. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I'm in District 27, which is it's Beaverton. It's a part of Beaverton. It goes from Murray Hill on up to Sylvan Hill, follows Shoals Ferry.
You get to know the geography pretty well when you walk all of that, huh?
You do, and you know especially the hilly parts.
Yeah, but then that's why you don't see a lot of candidates that are have quite as much weight on them at the end of the campaign as they did at the beginning. So
that is the truth.
Well, tell us first, perhaps, why you're running and what inspired you to get involved with running for office, because not everybody wants to do that, and certainly it is no easy task, not just the walking, but everything else that goes with it. So could you describe that for us? Absolutely,
yeah. No, actually, up until probably a year and a half ago, probably the most politically active thing I did was vote. But then, obviously, with all the radical changes at the national and state level, started getting more aware of things. And then really got involved last year with the national health care reform when Representative Wu came to Portland. And I started getting informed on things, and I found massive amounts of disinformation coming out of Washington, D.C. about health care and health care reform. And then I ran across the same kinds of deception being perpetrated on the people of Oregon with measures 66 and 67. So I got very involved in that, and especially during the national health care debate, I ended up getting interviewed by the Wall Street Journal and got interviewed on Neil Cavuto, and just that eventually led to me running for state representative. So that's where I am today.
Well, getting interviewed on Neil Cavuto, one of the reasons why I think you were interviewed, wasn't it, is that you have also knowledge outside of just personal interest in the issue with healthcare. You actually have some experience with the industry and know a bit about how it works. Tell us about your background.
And actually, yeah, well, the background I've actually been using a lot lately is I was an analyst at a major Cold War spy station in Berlin, and that's been very helpful in trying to figure out the Oregon budget. But I also used it to research things about the healthcare debate. I work at Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield, but I'm actually in the IT department. So I've worked in lots of different industries, including I worked for the state in Texas and Oregon. But I knew enough about the health insurance industry to know that the things coming out of Washington, D.C. were very deceptive and were attempting to mislead people towards a particular end and not to get the best legislation for the United States.
Well, and you're also working to unseat an incumbent. Describe, I guess in a contrasting way, what people are getting when they elect Dan Lucas versus your opponent.
Probably the two biggest differences are I actually dig in and understand the things that will vote on. I get in and I understand the issues.
You read the bill?
I read the bill, and I also don't take the talking points. I actually get in and try to understand the issues, and I don't believe that's true of my opponent. In particular, I looked at his voting record, and during the 152 votes of the special session, he voted along party lines 100% of the time, and he was at 98% along party lines during the general session. And I think Oregon needs a lot more independent thinking than that.
So basically, your opponent just goes and does what he's told most of the time.
That's what his voting record would indicate.
Well, I think certainly in these circumstances, people want to press the reset button and maybe get a different perspective or a different opportunity to consider policies that might not be producing the results we're seeing now. What do you think would be the top thing that you would pursue once in office?
Well, I think the main thing that everybody's going to face when they get into session next year is the looming budget crisis. You look, the sitting governor's reset cabinet said that there's going to be a $2.7 billion shortfall, and that reflects a 26% increase in spending. And this is at a time when we're stuck at 10.6 unemployment, and our economy's not going anywhere, and they're going to grow government spending by 26%. Where's that money going to come from? And then when you dig a little bit into what that spending is, two-thirds of that spending is going to go to, two-thirds of the increase is going to the Department of Human Services, and most of that is around the expansion of government-run health care here in Oregon, above and beyond what the federal government's going to do. And that, I think, really caught my attention in Ron Wyden's letter that was out in the news last week. A lot of people focused on a part of the second page of his letter where he talked about not requiring mandates, but the whole first page of that letter talks about really greasing the skids, opening the door to allow Oregon's much more aggressive government-run health care to take off, which, a lot of people don't know this, but in last year's session, in House Bill 2009, Oregon already voted in a public option. Oregon already has that. And the people behind the scenes that are pushing for the public option, and of course they got their way, they're already sensitive to the term public option, so they're trying to find new ways to say it so that, because people understand what a public option is and they don't want it. So they're trying to hide that now. So a lot of this money is going to build that infrastructure and to pay for this very, very overly expensive government-run health care.
So let me see if I can summarize what you've just said here. Basically, this increase in the budget that's expected, that's going to help produce this dramatic shortfall in the state budget, which the state's not allowed to run deficits, so they'll have to cut somewhere else. Two-thirds of that is due to the expansion that's taking place of health care at the state level, not just what we're seeing at the federal level, which has a lot of people pretty unhappy and up in arms. But this is actually something that is going to turn around and impact the state budget. That basically means that they're going to bankrupt the state, as we've seen in Massachusetts, in order to do something that goes beyond Obamacare.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm looking now at page 19 of the Governor's Reset Cabinet final report, and it talks in here about among the long-term goals established by the legislature and the governor, which remain more aspirational than feasible, which is a very nice way of saying that, and one of them is the goal of affordable health care for Oregonians in all income groups. And then it shows these two pie charts, and it says if we remain on the path we're on, there will be further shifts in budget priorities towards human services, which includes health care, and away from education. So, and it shows these pie charts, and it shows 2009 to 2011, and it shows human services at 25%, and then public services and state school fund, and then it shows everything else, including schools and public safety, going down, and human services going up by 2017, 2019. So throughout the decade, more and more the state budget's going to shift to human services, and a big chunk of that, if not the majority of it, is to go to fund this massive expansion of government-run health care, above and beyond what the federal government is prescribing.
So we've been constantly bombarded during efforts to raise taxes in the past, and also when candidates run for office in past elections, about the importance of education and how vital it is that, for instance, we raise taxes in order to protect education. And it's kind of nonsense if you think, well, they're going to go ahead and spend way more money than we can afford, and they're going to take it out of education in the end because they can't take it out of this, Oregon version of health care. Now, you mentioned the Wyden...
Hey, Kevin, sorry, I want to stop you for a second. That
Sure.
is an outstanding point you just made. That's a brilliant point. And in fact, in the 2009 session, the legislature quietly stole $150 million from the state school fund and gave it to the Department of Human Services. So, and they did that before Measures 66 and 67, and they didn't give it back to the schools after 66 and 67, which is why all these school districts around the state are having to cut their budget.
So this is really going to dramatically impact schools. Well, Dan, since we have a little bit, I think like a minute or so left in this segment, I wanted to make sure that you got information out there for people to know how to connect with your campaign and get involved, because obviously you're one of the types of folks that can help people understand these issues and how they're going to impact the state.
Absolutely. Probably the easiest way is to just start with our website, which is www.votedanlucas.com. And it's DANLUCAS, one word with vote in front of it. And then off of there you can go visit our Facebook fan page or sign up for our newsletter.
Now, I understand we're going to have Dr. Frank Rosenblum on. Is he able to join us? So if we do, we want to thank you for being on the show here, Dan. If you're able to stay on, we'll see. But Dr. Frank Rosenblum is going to continue some of the discussion we just started with Dan Lucas, who I hope to call Representative Dan Lucas. This is Kevin Horan for Jane Carroll. We'll talk to you after the break.